Then you got it.
But I don't want you to ever think I always have it. I always have one ready for you.
So this,
Oh my God.
I know. I put it really big. I saw that for you.
that's right.
Good morning. Yeah, I saw that. So I've seen she's out here. Yeah. And obviously you're good. Okay. Sweet. Oh, hey, good morning. Yeah. Okay, well, howdy. And dinner was great. Oh my God, I want you to know Candy. Yes, sir.
Good morning. I guess now is as good a time as any to start. So good morning. Good morning. A lot of buzz going on today. Always a good sign. Always a good sign. My name is Rick Kitzman. I'll be your host for today's service. And we have a great service as always. Some faces we haven't seen in a while. And I think first off, let's get this out of the way. Turn off your cell phones. Or reduce the sound so it just vibrates. Because we have our Sergeant-at-Arms, Sandra, who will collect them. And what else? I like to start off with national holidays that are part of the Sunday or that week. And there's a great website, and today is National Booch Day, which is celebrated in the U.S. as a tribute to kombucha tea. So Booch Day. Today starts the Hunt for Happiness Week. elusive as that may be sometimes. And today is World Religion Day, a reminder of the need for harmony and understanding between religions and faith systems. There's 4,200 religions in the world. No wonder we're so confused. But that's different from being faith-based, and that's what we like to stress here. The faith. We also want to acknowledge that this is the indigenous land of the Cheyenne, Arapaho, and Ute peoples. And it's important for us to name, so we like to do a land acknowledgement. We've been doing this since about the 1st of their legacy matters because this was their sacred ground. And it is made more holy for Althea because of it. Our building is home to 2 nonprofit organizations which represent that desire for us to be all-inclusive, and they are Spirit of the Sun and Sisters of Color United in Education, and whose work through activism, programming, and education is very impactful. So we are aware of this, and we want to increase our diversity, so keep that in your beautiful minds and hearts. We also want to acknowledge that although we are growing in diversity at Althea, that we have a long way to go. We do have a large LGBTQ plus membership, but there is so much more we can do. We know that implicit and explicit, unconscious, conscious biases are real. And as is the lived experience of our neighbors of color, people with diverse abilities, and other groups that don't have the same privileges in our culture. So we ask for everyone's help and feedback to get us to a place of deep belonging for everyone. So that is what Althea stands for and strives for. Do we have any first-timers here today? Oh, keep your hands up. Welcome. Thank you for... Well, Rachel had to come because she's the speaker. Thank you for coming here and sharing your Sunday with us. We so appreciate it, and almost more importantly, we hope you come back. So the flowers are for other members to say hello to you, to welcome you, and it will also entitle you to a free lunch. So yes, Veronica, there is such a thing as free lunch at Althea if you're a new person here. So thank you again so much. It's wonderful to see new faces. A nice crowd today. What's always a nice crowd? All right, let's start off with an opening prayer. And if you're comfortable, go ahead and close your eyes. And we also want to acknowledge within those deep breaths and that centering that tomorrow marks the holiday for Martin Luther King. And there is a term which he is associated with, the beloved community. And this was first coined in 1913 by American philosopher Josiah Royce. And he believed, quote, life means nothing, either theoretically or practically, unless we center ourselves as fellow sojourners in building community grounded in love, redemption, and reconciliation. As Americans, we have become comfortable with a view of justice that prefers law and order over compassion and recognition of our shared humanity. So let us move into that shared humanity. Let us move into that feeling of compassion for each and every human being. Compassion for every animal and every plant on this beautiful, magnificent planet we call home. For this community, the beloved community, is a recognition of oneness. It is a recognition that each of us Where is the face of God that we are one with each other, and that together we make up the beloved community. And so we simply know in our heart of hearts this divine connection that we come here to replenish, to rejuvenate, to remind ourselves that despite all of the screechings of the world, we can focus on peace and harmony, compassion, and love. And I know that we take all of this with us out into this world, and we show the world exactly who we are and what we stand for. And we share that love with everyone in everyday circumstances. And so let us, as Dr. King so eloquently talked about, be a member of that beloved community, and to go out into our community and show it our love. And so, with hearts filled with gratitude and thanksgiving for this moment, for this experience we call our life, let us just let everything go and know that in this moment there is only peace and harmony and love. And together we say, and so it is.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Please stand as you're able and join me in Althea's statement of being, followed by our sung response to Face of God. God is all, both invisible and visible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one who is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. We are individualized expressions of God and are ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of love. I hold you in my heart. We are a family. You are the face of God. Thank you. Thank you, Sandra.
Our featured musician today is Sandra Wong. And that's really applause right now. When you know Sandra is here, you know it's going to be grand and great. Just a little bit about her, because I don't know if we've ever gone through this much detail, but she started her life in upstate New York, displaying a deep love of music as a youngster. She began studying the violin at the age of 7. I was probably playing with my Tonka toys. With the intention of becoming a concert violinist. And this remained her sole focus. Her musical world was turned upside down. And then she opened another door where she just discovered a 14th century Swedish folk instrument called the nyckelharpa, a 16-string key instrument played with a bow. And this has become a part of her musical expression, which knows no bounds. So please welcome Sandra Wong.
I did not bring the nickel harpa today. I will bring it another day. I was giving this morning and I heard this pshh. I was like, what is that? So I go into the laundry room and there is a pshh. Water. And so I scrambled into the crawl space and there's water everywhere. And so I ran around getting things dried off, turned off the water and grabbed one instrument and said, that's enough. Just a couple other things before I forget. These wonderful white flutes on the stage with me and are Micah and Gracie. They are Colorado Mountain Dogs. They are incredibly sweet and they see their job in the world as bringing joy and comfort to absolutely every single person. So, our unofficial angel readers. So afterwards, if you want to say hi to them, please, they would be so delighted. And last thing, I'm actually going to play you some Bach this morning. I'm feeling a little self-conscious because I am not one, but I'd like to offer it in part. It's centered for me. I've had a bit of a rocky morning. And I also found out over the last 72 hours that 3 people that I know or are dear friends, or a family member of dear friends, have died all young, one very tragically. So I'd just like to offer this to the heartbreaking perfection of all things.
you were warmed up. My Lord. Just the goosebumps. And our hearts go out to you, lost there. Neil, my partner, and I can relate to your flood this morning as ours occurred on Christmas Eve. And we paid for our plumber's next 5 Christmases, I think. But we learned something. We learned where to shut off the water and how to relight the light. Everything is a teachable moment. Which leads us to our teacher for the day. She like that segue there? Yeah, pretty good. Reverend Rachel Harrison has had an interesting spiritual upbringing, including being raised in New Mexico by parents who were among the early followers of Tibetan Buddhism in the United States. She founded her spiritual home in Unity over 25 years ago and has attended Columbine Spiritual Center for 22 years, including working as the director of community care from 2019 to 2022. In April of 2021, Rachel graduated from the University of Sedona in metaphysics, completing a long-time dream to become an ordained minister. In April of 22, Rachel stepped out in faith to work full-time supporting the online community she has been developing for the last few years as a spiritual coach. And on her podcast, sharing the spiritual path to a happy and healthy life called Recover Your Soul, with her intriguing theme, Entangled Soul. Please welcome Rachel Harrison.
Yay, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much. And Sandra, I was so excited when I saw that we were going to be together because I've heard her play her other instrument because my father is a singer-songwriter, folk singer, and you've played with it. Jerry Ferris is my dad. I know, see, the levels of connection. You know, when I prepare for talks, I do a lot of preparation, and that it is what Spirit guides me to say. Because we are here together in community. And we're all here today because we are spiritual seekers. And as I was looking online about Althea and just marveling at this building and this community and how long it's been here and learning more about divine science and the inner web of connection with unity and the New Thought movement that came at that time, and that this was founded by women, I just was heartened. And the belief that we are all one. So a little bit of my story is I was raised Buddhist in New Mexico with my dad, Jerry Ferris, who is still a hippie man. He's still a hippie. He's 83. He lives in a trailer in Magic, New Mexico, and makes jewelry for a living, and sings for his supper to this day. And I love that about him. And my mom really discovered Buddhism. She was the one that really held on to it in 1970, the year that I was born. And when those early Tibetan Buddhists came, it was new, right? Like no one had really experienced that. And they came to Santa Fe, and I had real access to the incredible beauty that it offered. And now it's more distanced. It's harder to get right next to the lamas and to the main teachers, but not in the early 70s. They were coming, and I remember sitting on the laps of these monks and having their prayer beads in my hands and smelling the aroma of the sandalwood and the incense and the clashing and the horns and the mantras. That fills my soul. That is love to me. And when I was 7, my mom went to India for 3 months to go study with her teacher, who was called Rinpoche. And so she left for 3 months, and so I spent 1 month with my hippie dad, almost making it to school every day. And then at 7, I went on a plane by myself and flew to Texas to my dad's mom, who was a Baptist. And I show up this raggedy New Mexico after just been with my dad, so I'm extra raggedy, and I've got my red prayer cords around my neck. And my grandmother, who is coming from her belief, her place of what was right for her, she was afraid for me. And so she spent a month saving my soul. And I was a good little girl. I learned really early on to be a good little girl, but it was traumatizing for me. And she cut out the prayer cords, started teaching me Bible lessons, took me in front of her congregation where I stood at 7 and promised my soul that Jesus was my Lord and Savior. And it wasn't for me, but I knew I needed to do that. And what it did to me is it made me think that didn't feel loving. That I was raised in Buddhism, and that felt loving to me. That felt very open and accepting. That's what fed me. And so I had this real no thanks to Christianity, no thanks to God, no thanks to Jesus. And now I can really, oh my goodness, I have so much compassion for my grandmother because I was so angry at her for a long time. And what I could see is that she was doing what felt right to her. She was doing what was really her heart and soul. She was scared for me because that was her belief. She came from a place of fear. And unfortunately, a lot of Christianity comes from a place of fear. And what I love about your thought is it came and it said something different. It came and it said, Jesus came and taught, but it taught more. It taught love. It taught oneness. When I read the credo of divine science, my heart, I almost cried because that's how I feel. That it taught us about love. It taught us about oneness. So 30 years ago, I started dating my still husband, Rich, who's here. And we started dating, and he went to Faith Bible Chapel. He went to an evangelical church. And he was really, at that time, he was really studying the Bible. And I was a little I don't know, that might be a deal breaker for me. I smoked cigarettes at the time. He said that was a deal breaker for him. So we both, came. I quit smoking. But what I loved about Rich, what Rich really did for me was he didn't do what my grandma did. He didn't say, you need to be saved, or what I think is right, what you think is wrong. He said, tell me more. Tell me more about what you think. Tell me more about how you were raised. Tell me more about what that is. And he asked my mom questions, and he asked me questions, and he was open. And I went to his church, and I remember going to his church, and I didn't relate to the message, but I remember crying at the music because the energy that you felt in the music was so profound. And that meant something to me, that touch that you have. That when you feel faith, and maybe the words that they say, maybe the judgments that they have, all that goes away when you can let go of your ego and your expectations and all of those things. That I could feel the love there. But I knew that wasn't the place for me either. So when we were getting ready to get married, we're driving up the peak-to-peak highway from Ward, Netherland to Ward, and we're going to the place where we did end up getting married. And Rich says, Rachel, if you're not Christian and you're not really Buddhist, because your mom's Buddhist, what are you? What do you believe? And I said, I believe that God is love. I believe we're all connected. I believe that our lives are what we think and feel they are. I believe that there's goodness in everyone. And he's like, wow, babe, that's beautiful. But that's you gotta have a religion. You can't just make stuff up. And it turned out when I came to New Thought, we found it. So we started church shopping when I got pregnant. Because you have a baby and then you're like, oh, we should raise these children under spirituality. So we went to all these churches, and we went to a couple of Christian churches, and one of my favorite things is we went to one, and my husband would go in and he would say, so I just want you to know my wife is Buddhist. And what he was saying was, I just want you to accept her. And what they would say is, that's fine, we can fix her. We can save her. And I remember one time he said, my wife doesn't need saving. And when we found unity, when we walked into a unity church, and that message that I had said that I felt and believed as we were on that drive, we knew that we went home. So we went to that church for almost 20, 25 years. We went to the other one in Boulder, and then we ended up at Unity of Columbine. It was closer to our house in Moreland. And I'm so grateful for that community. And I'm so grateful for New Thought. And I'm so grateful for this inner search. So a little more about my story is that we were going to Columbine, and we had our lives, and we had real life. Because we all have real life. We are here on a journey. We are here to find ourselves. We are here having this human experience, these spiritual souls having this human experience, which is painful and difficult. And Rich and I have been together for 30 years, and it hasn't all been easy. One of our issues is that we have what used to be called alcoholism, now they call it alcohol use disorder. And on February 10th, I will celebrate 5 years of sobriety. And the reason I drank was because there was a hole in my heart. And I think that if we're really honest, we all have a hole in our heart. We all have suffering. And so as I've been doing this soul recovery journey, and when I went into sobriety again, I was like, I'm 48 years old. If I don't get it together, I'm not going to make it. And if I hadn't been at Columbine, if I hadn't been in that spiritual center, if I hadn't had that place that loved me and supported me and let me be myself and loved me anyway, I probably would have been a lot worse. Thank goodness I didn't fall down as far as I could. But I was empty inside. I was so filled with dis-ease. I was really filled with a wish that, well, mostly I wish that Rich was different, but I wish that the world was different. I wish that the circumstances were different. I wished, it's like I wanted that outside world to fill me up. I wanted comfort, and it wasn't coming. And I didn't know yet where to get it. I was getting markers, but I wasn't really feeling it. And so when I dove into sobriety this time, it wasn't about the drinking, it was about my soul. And I didn't know what was happening in my life, but I just started really doing the inner work. I started really letting go of the outside world. I went into 12-step like crazy. I started eating metaphysics like crazy. Luckily, my kids had also mostly left and grown up, and that was really helpful because I could let them go. And then I started talking about it. And I started a podcast called Recover Your Soul. I had no idea what it was going to be. I was just sharing my experience of recovering from alcoholism. And what I realized is what I was really recovering from was control addiction. That we want other people to be different. And so we don't have control of a single thing outside of ourselves, not one single thing. Really hard to really grasp that. And we only have control of ourselves, and yet we give our control away every single day to somebody else. We say, if you would be happy, if you would act this way, if you would do this, or if I had this much money, or if I had this job, or if I had this, then I could be happy. And in each one of those moments, we're basically handing our happiness over to somebody else. And what I love about 12-step is that first of all, it was founded similarly to New Thought. It was affected by New Thought. And so when they talk about a spiritual awakening and they have the discussions of a higher power, it is the same discussions of higher power that were the founders of Unity, Divine Science, Science of Mind. And I loved that. When I found that out, I was like, I knew I was in the right place. I knew this is what I needed and wanted. The heart of 12-step is that having had a spiritual awakening as the result of looking at yourself, you are relieved of suffering. That's the foundation of 12-step. And so I went in that full out. And then I decided I wanted to get ordained, and so I did the University of Sedona. which is a metaphysical university. And through all of these studies, the clarity of our suffering and the clarity of how much pain we have from wanting outside sources to be different became more and more evident, and it became more and more evident that that's how I had behaved, that's how I had reacted, that's every single situation. I was, not that much of a bitchy person most of the time, but I was this discomfort, this dis-ease inside. So I've been reading, and I mostly listen to books. I have dyslexia, so it's hard for me to read and retain information. I love listening to books. So recently, I've been listening to Thich Nhat Hanh's The Art of Living. And this one chapter called Letting Go, just hit me. Like that truth, just the beauty of it. And what I loved about it was he was talking about the art of suffering. Now, in New Thought, we can get really caught up in just be positive and just look on the bright side, and we all believe in the law of attraction, and we all think, turn yourself to the higher mind and be positive and everything's going to work out. And that's good. It's good to be on the positive end, but we're here as human beings. We're human beings, and we have pain, and we have experiences, and we all have had trauma. Big T, little t, we've all been through it. And that suffering, those pains, those emotions are who makes us who we are. We can't grow if we don't hit hard stuff. You don't go to the gym and lift 3 pounds and think, oh, look at me. I'm like, ooh, I'm good. No, you gotta push yourself. You have to do reps, you have to do repeats. It has to be stronger, more and more and more. And there's a reason for that. That's why we're here. We're here to grow. We're here to learn. So what I loved about this particular chapter, that really opened up to allowing our feelings. Allowing us to truly hold that place in ourselves that most of us have been pushing our feelings away. And there's more and more evidence that we, as we know in New Thought, that we're energy. And there's more and more scientific evidence that's showing that the energy that goes into our body gets stored. That when we're young and we have traumatic events, that energy, when we're children, we don't know what to do with it. We don't understand it. We don't have the vocabulary for it. We don't know how it happens in our bodies, and so we internalize these belief systems that aren't true. But more than that, the vibrations of energy get stuck. And being in New Thought, healing is a huge piece of New Thought. And so we know from Unity that Merle Fillmore, she healed herself through her belief system of tuberculosis. And I'm sure that there's, in Science Mind, there's also, Divine Science, there's also examples. And there's examples all the time of healing. But we hold these energies. And then we spend our whole life not wanting to touch that energy because it's so painful. Has anyone read The Untethered Soul? I can't remember who wrote it, but yeah. I love his story about the thorn. That you have a pain, you have a thorn. And instead of doing the work that takes the thorn out, that's going to be painful, maybe you have to actually dig in there and get the thorn out, and it's going to hurt. Instead, we're like, don't touch my thorn. I got this thorn here, so I can't have you on my thorn. I'm gonna, as a matter of fact, I'm gonna put some walls up so you can't touch my thorn. We spend our whole life building a whole world around this thorn because we don't want to take the thorn out. And what Thich Nhat Hanh was talking about was to honor your suffering. To honor your suffering, that if we can learn how to be with our feelings and be with our suffering, that we actually suffer less. But we spend so much time pushing it away. I spent years drinking it away. I didn't want to feel my feelings. I didn't want to get to what was in there. And the crazy thing is, now that I'm sober and now that I'm awake, not so bad. Not so hard. Turns out, my husband didn't need to change. Look at how fabulous he is. He's changed a lot too. I didn't think it. But we don't want to look. So Thich Nhat Hanh was talking about how when you learn how to welcome those feelings. And I love right now that there's a huge push of recognizing our feelings. My mom is still a very active Buddhist. She's been going to Althea Center in Boulder for the last, we've been here since 87, so since 1987. And maybe like 10 years ago, she said that there was a new teaching of meditation. And the teaching, instead of the traditional meditation, which is your mind is the cloud, the sky, right? And you're noticing your breath, and you're in your breath, and you're noticing your breath, and then you have a thinking thought, and you notice there's a cloud in the sky, and you say thinking, and you let the cloud disperse. And we're trying to open up to the idea of not overthinking. She said that there was this new profound teaching of meditation, and it was feeling. To really allow yourself to feel. What am I feeling? What does my body feel like? Where am I feeling it? And she said it was like kind of, earth-shattering to the group. And what I love is Thich Nhat Hanh also says that the way to open up to your suffering is through mindfulness. It's through awareness. It's through an inviting it in versus a pushing it out. And he had the realization that he was talking about how generally we don't want to feel our feelings, and so we spend a lot of time protecting our thorn, when the truth is if we come to our breath, come into meditation, and we allow it. And he offers that you can allow your breath to invite it. Hello, my pain. Hello, my suffering. I'm here for you. Hello, my pain. Hello, my suffering. I feel you. Hello, my pain. I feel you. And when we allow our bodies to actually be in that moment, to be in that feeling, it can work through our body instead of sticking inside. And that's the art of healing. When our meridians are clear, when our chakras are clear, when our energy is clear, our bodies, these vessels that we live in as our souls for this lifetime, can heal. And he said it's really important to look at what's keeping us from being happy, and the entanglement is all these outside things. We can either entangle ourselves internally by replaying old patterns and old pains and old fear, or we can be entangled by the outside sources that say you have to have this kind of a car, you have to have this kind of a job, you have to look this certain way, you have to be this certain weight, you have to have this kind of thing, you have to show up in a way that people will love and accept. Or you can see that each one of those is entangled. I call it, in soul recovery, I call it hooks. That we let somebody hook us. And Rich and I were watching a movie about addiction, and it was, the guy was deaf. And the sign language for addiction is hook. Which I thought was amazing. You are hooked by your addiction. And my addiction was alcohol, but really my addiction was my pain and my desire to not feel. So what are our hooks? What are those entanglements? I had this vision this morning when I was slowly waking up of, I have all this beautiful jewelry. I'm so lucky. My dad has given me so many beautiful things. My mom's traveled the world, and if you don't hang everything up just right, with the hooks hooked and the clasps hooked, and you let it fall, it is almost impossible to untangle chains and jewelry. And I thought about how beautiful each of those pieces are, and each of those individual chains, each one of those necklaces are so beautiful. But if I don't take care of them, if I don't keep them in order, if I don't recognize their separateness, if I don't recognize detachment, it gets all tangled in there. The entanglement of our souls, the entanglement of our family, what we think that our family wants for us, or what we think our kids want for us, or what we think our husbands or wives or friends, or again, all of that, putting it from the outside and expecting it to fill us up. Instead of looking at each one of these elements as part of who we are, part of our lives, without control, without the need for it to be a certain way. And it's not easy. It's not easy, but it's worth it. Having had a spiritual awakening as the result of internal work, there's freedom. And there's peace. I also love that Thich Nhat Hanh talked about that we can weather the storm. And he had a visualization of a tree. And I loved this because the world is chaos and a storm. And his visual was that you are the strength of the tree, and there's branches that are waving in the storm. And you can either have all your attention up on the branches, that you're out of control, this is terrible, or you can be in the foundation of your self, your spiritual strong self, and you can feel that there's stuff going on. And that's when you bring it in and you say, suffering, I see you. Hello, my pain. I'm here for you. I am the strength. I am the solidity of this spiritual being that can allow the storm to pass, allow it to move through us. So we can choose whether we want to be entangled, or we can choose if we want to do the inner work, let go of responsibility, and be in a spiritually centered place. And we can do a whole bunch of motivational speaking, but really, it's about loving yourself. It's about forgiving yourself. It's about forgiving others. Anyone done the Course in Miracles? A couple people. I've heard about it forever. You know, it's one of those things, I've heard about it forever, and then I have been doing it for the last year. Profound work for me. And what the number one thing that I've gotten out of it is the power of forgiveness. And it doesn't mean the forgiveness that means that you say what you did to me was okay. What it means is you recognize that suffering. Hello, my pain, I see you. And I'm here for you. And I'm willing to let it go. I'm willing to not let that pain entangle my soul and keep me from being my truest, most centered, awake self. We were all brought here. This is one of my big, I say this all the time. Every single one of us is a manifestation of the divine. And you were each given unique gifts to share with the world, and yet we doubt them. And yet we doubt them. Here's this gift. I'm like, oh, I'm not good enough for it. That's not what the divine is saying. The divine is saying, here's this gift, and you are this gift. We need your gift. And our consciousness is raising all together. I do believe that it doesn't feel like it if you watch the news, but I do believe our consciousness is raising. Is anybody watching The Chosen, which is about Jesus? So, being raised Buddhist, I didn't know the Bible. So now that I'm a minister, now I'm reading and learning about the Bible. So Rich and I are watching The Chosen, which is the story of Jesus. And what it made me think about is how in the these patterns were raising our consciousness. And I believe New Thought was the next level of raised consciousness. And I believe we're in another new level of raised consciousness. So the greatest gift that we can give to the world to help heal the world is to untangle our own souls, find our own connection with the divine, walk with the light that is within each of us, and share and spread that light without any pain in ourselves, with the unlimited nature of knowing what the universe is and standing in our humanness, but from that grounded place, not in the branches. And every time we do that, we interact with somebody who you are shining your light on them, and you are affecting change in the world for the better. So I invite you, when you're feeling feelings, to allow them, to trust that this is part of your growth, that you can and you do have the strength to stand in any feeling that comes to you, and that God is holding you and loving you and supporting you and guiding you, and you can do anything. You are so loved. And invite the pain, let it wash through, and the more often we do that, the less there is to process. So I thank you for letting me share today. I thank you for this gift of all of this community. I can already feel the beauty of this community. And I look forward to coming and spending time with you again. And I'd love to hear something new. Thank you.
And please say hi to your dad. Oh, it is so fun. This is just to share this memory was coming from listening to what you were saying, and it's related, but it's just where it resonated. You know, I grew up as a classical musician and showed a lot of promise, and I had a tiger dad, and he really had great aspirations for me. And then I discovered the fiddle. And I sent him my two first CDs, and they were solo fiddle and solo harpa. And they both showed up at his house with the cases cracked. And I thought, that's so perfect. You know, the expectation, the form that he was so attached to had cracked, but the CD, the music was still totally intact. So I don't know, it's not exactly the same, but it is. That's what. And so I'm going to play you some fiddle tunes. And these are Swedish and Norwegian fiddle tunes. The first is Polska from Osha, and the second is a Holling, which is a dance that they do. And it's primarily done by men in the Norwegian army when they're not at war. So they've had a lot of time to perfect it, and it's very, very acrobatic. And the defining piece is that they have, it's always a woman holding a stick with a hat on the stick, and the first guy comes up and does all this fancy dancing, and then he leaps up the air and kicks the hat off the stick. So of course, the next man comes along and goes, you thought that was good. And so he does even more fancy dancing and leaps even higher. And it's impressive, and it's also, it tickles me because it's such a great expression of, that aspect. And then the last one is a thin Skoog's pulse. So I hope you enjoy.
time, Sandra. It's fantastic. It is always a pleasure, Sandra. Always. So this is a reading that was penned by a fellow called, or named John Rodell. An old emotional scar that I was certain had healed broke open unexpectedly yesterday. And as soon as it did, all of the old ghosts that haunted me at the time of my wounding came to pay me a most unwelcome visit. Shame, fear, guilt, despair. They all arrived and had a graveyard picnic on my heart. It did not take long for me to fracture like a fancy dinner plate bouncing off a concrete patio. While I was sitting there in pieces, I found myself reciting the lines to this poem prayer I wrote to myself on the day when I first received that old scar. If you are finding yourself a bit fractured today, I hope these words hold for you a bit as they did for me. I love you. Oh, you wonderful faces of God. Me, hey God. God, I'm in love. Me, I'm about to break. God, why do you think that is? Me, because life just keeps getting harder. God, well, then you need to become softer. Me, huh? God, here's the thing. Glass is hard, but it can shatter easily when dropped. Rock is hard, but it can be broken quickly with a drill. Gold is hard, but it can be melted in a blazing fire. So don't be so hard that you break down so easily. Be soft, like wet clay in the hands of a potter. Be soft, like river water in the summer. Be soft, like the breeze through a row of tall pines. All of these things survive no matter what happens to them. They endure because they haven't built their existence out of hard materials. Be soft with other people. Don't break them with your words. And don't let them break you with theirs. Be soft with yourself. Your heart is more of a marshmallow than a meadow. Your soul is wrapped in the softest of fabrics for a reason. The softer you become, the more you understand how precious all of life is. Be more of cotton than you are of concrete. Love isn't cold granite. Love is shapeless. Love is like ocean water gently passing through your toes. In a world where the hardness of diamonds helps determine its worth, don't become one yourself. Become so soft that nothing can break you.
Thank you, Bruce. And now we know what Sandra sounds like when she's warmed up. So you don't have to wait. It is time to, with your soft hearts now, to open them up and give from those soft hearts to this wonderful community. And so ushers, if you will please begin passing around the baskets. We ask for your donations, your contributions. There are many ways to give. We have the tip jar in the back, use a credit card. You can become an Evergreen member, monthly deductions, so you don't have to worry about it. And of course, you can always donate your cash on Sundays or mail it in. So thank you all for your contributions. And I want to make sure that we also remember to include our online community, those who may be watching us via all those technological advanced computer things. You know, what is it, Facebook? Facebook. And so we welcome you. What a wonderful way to join us in spirit, if not physically. So thank you also to you for joining us today and sharing of your day and of your hearts. read the offering prayer here. The universe provides all that I need and all that I give. With great joy, I share my prosperity, planting seeds for a world and helping make sense. And so it is. Amen. Thank you, Butcher. Affirmative prayer is an essential part of Althea and its foundation. And so we have prayer partners at the end of the service. For those of you who may feel like you may need groups for the upcoming week for issues you're having or happy things that have happened. Our partners today are Mike and Connie from Richmond. So they will be back here in the meditation room in that area in the library, so please join them. This is also the time that we are doing now prayers of the people. So for those of you who would like your prayers to go to our prayer partner community, now is the time. And Sandra, we're going to put you on for a dry basin.
Are you ready for me, Rick?
I'm ready. Yes.
The microphone is on.
Right now.
There it is.
Our very own Alice Brink, who we see all the time, who's been up on our stage. Let's pray for her because she had a retinal tear. And she's going to be okay, and she's going to be able to leave the country for a month and a half here in just a few days, which was freaking her out, as you can imagine. But it's really scary when something happens to your vision that we're not 100% sure why it happened, and it could take many, many months to heal. So let's put her in our prayers. Alice Brink for her retinal tear.
Great nephew is having surgery at the Mayo Clinic this week. It's exploratory, so he's 20 years of age.
What's his name?
Sebastian Garnica. Thank you.
Yeah.
This week, as our new Congress meets and making decisions that will affect especially poor people, I pray that the right decision is made, that nobody gets hurt from this decision. Thank you.
Congress always needs our help.
Congress always needs our help. Yes.
Anyone else? Katie.
I just wanted to express gratitude and remembrance for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., whom we all celebrate tomorrow, and who was a great champion for the poor and really for a life of peace and nonviolence.
Yes, amen to that. Anyone else? All right. These prayers will go out to our prayer partner group of about 25 people for the next week. So thank you all very much. It's a great service. And now, announcements. Are we ready for announcements? Right. A woman who needs to know. Introduction, Jenny Husband.
Thank you, Rick. Good morning. I'm Ginny, and I am part of the team that brings you amazing Sundays like the one we had today. So another round of applause for Rachel. Thank you so much. And Rich, for being there with her to help add to the humor and give it a high five. Thank you so much. And I don't know about the rest of you, but sometimes, every once in a while when we have someone up here, someone performing, you get visual. I saw flames coming from your violin. Sandra, just Anyway, thank you so much. And thank you for not bailing. I would have bailed. But you down. And the dogs came, and you missed the dogs too. So thank you so much for being here. So we have other speakers and cool people coming on Sundays. Next Sunday, and I'm going to get the pronunciation of this wonderful human's name right this time, because apparently I did last time. Althea Center is speaking to us next week. So please join us for him. And then the next Sunday, I'm going to speak. It's scary, but I'm going to do it. And Christina Renee Monks is coming. Robert Brzezinski is coming. And then also Liliana Barr is coming to us from North Carolina. So stay tuned. Everything that I'm going to tell you about today is on our website, or you can talk with someone who's here and they'll fill you in. So know that if you didn't quite hear it, you can take a look at your program, which has a lot of good information, and you can always check out our website. Normally today, we have Matthew Quigley, who does restorative yoga. He's not with us today, so don't try to show up at 2 o'clock for his yoga. But what we do have is an integrative yoga, not happening today, but this happens, let me find it so I get it right with Linda. This is every Thursday at 5:30 p.m. to 6:45. All levels are welcome. Join us for that. A week from this Sunday, we have Greg Wilkins and his gong bath. So if you have never been bathed by a gong, or if you have not been bathed by that vibration in our space, you've got to check it out. So that'll be next Sunday. We also have every Thursday, and this is via Zoom, so for those of you that still like to do things virtually, 11 o'clock every Thursday, you can join Kathy Humphreys. I usually have her wave, but I don't see Miss Kathy. So she's not here with us today. But check out on our website what that is all about. It's called Community Connections. They basically pick a topic and they talk about it as a group. Let's see what else we got going. The Accountability Circle with Sarma. Where's Miss Sarma? Always make her way. Where'd you go?
Kitchen.
Oh, she's in the kitchen working. We're going to talk about that too in a minute. So Sarma does accountability circles Tuesday. It's going to be, looks like several Tuesdays at 8 p.m. on Zoom, so another virtual offering. This one's free. What do you want to be held accountable for? So she's going to help you make that happen. And today, of course, we want you all to stay and join us for an amazing lunch in the dining room following immediately this service. And if this is your first time, lunch is on us. If you're not able to stay, you can use that free lunch another time, but we'd mostly love for you to stay. So check that out with us. I want to make sure I've got everything. Sarma in the kitchen also is over our volunteers. And one of the things she needs help with, and the reason she's not sitting here right now, is obviously they need some help in the dining room. So that doesn't just happen magically, right? If you would love to volunteer for us, we would love to have you help prep and help afterwards when we're all done eating. So let's make sure I've got everything. So talk to Sandra if you want to help volunteer.
How about a deep dive?
We are not having a deep dive today. What we're having instead has a different name, and it is called
Learning Circle.
It's called the Learning Group. Thank you. And Beverly. I was going to call you Betsy. Beverly Sullivan right there is leading it, and it's all about how to get organized. Right? Yes?
What's the name of it?
Say it again. Are you putting me on the spot? Is this your list? Girl, you are tough. I had a pipe burst with stuff I didn't know.
Okay, the name of it is Your Life Organized. Letting
Your life organized.
go
Let it go.
of what you do not need, want, or use.
What you do not need, want, or use, let it go.
Let it go.
All right. So how that happens, we eat some lunch, and around 12:30, we'll gauge it, we'll announce it. you will meet with her in right behind us well in the historic library. So that's how that works out. Want to remind you, as soon as this is all over, you can also go in that same space for a one-on-one affirmative prayer, so don't forget that. So join us, and I believe that's everything. Rick, did I forget any little thing? Any big thing? All right, thank you so much. And now we invite Daryl.
Good morning. This has been a really wonderful Sunday. And we had a much bigger crowd than usual, 20 more people than our average. So we had 70 people this actually. 70. And please stand as you're able and join me in our community song, Let It Be. When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. And in my hour of darkness, she is standing right in front of me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be. Sweet whisper words of wisdom, let it be. And when the broken-hearted people living in the world agree, there will be an answer, let it be. For though they may be parted, there is still a chance that they will see. There will be an answer. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Let it be. Now let it be. Whisper words of wisdom. Let it be. 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 Whisper words of wisdom. Let it be. And when the night is cloudy, there is still a light that shines on me. Shine until tomorrow, let it be. I wake up to the sound of music. Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, and let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. Let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will be an answer, let it be. Thank you so much.
All right, stay standing, and today, if you feel comfortable, grab a hand or two next to you. Okay, you ready to shout out? Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
Something wonderful is happening to me right now.
It is that thing called life.
It is that thing called life.
I lovingly recognize my pain.
I lovingly recognize my pain.
And I even more lovingly recognize my divine gifts.
And I even more lovingly recognize my divine gifts.
Very good. I feel it. I know it. And I am it. And so it